James Creedon is here, which means it's time for Media Watch. Hi, James. Starting off with an exodus or potential exodus of African nations from the ICC.
That's right. Lots of headlines on the fact that 3 African countries have given notice that they are to abandon the International Criminal Court. And you have this headline in Foreign Policy: is the ICC crumbling before our eyes? And lots of headlines are asking similar type questions. This is Le Monde saying the International Criminal Court, there's a sort of a chain reaction of departures of African countries, showing that it's really that the Hague-based court is in serious crisis. Atlantico.fr puts it even more sort of strongly, bringing in the context of other international organisations set up since 1945. Is that whole infrastructure now in a crisis of legitimacy? So that's by way of headlines, I suppose, painting the broader picture, Chris.
Many high-profile warnings over this, including one from Desmond Tutu.
That's right. So the 3 countries in question are South Africa, Gambia and Burundi, with perhaps more to follow. So Desmond Tutu in South Africa saying African leaders behind the move to leave the International Criminal Court are seeking a license to kill, maim and oppress their people without consequences. So the whole problem of impunity in the countries that are leaving the International Criminal Court is being posed. Countries like Botswana, who are resisting for the moment any bids to leave, are saying, this is somebody relaying a press release regarding the withdrawal of South Africa, and it's a press release by Botswana, the state, saying that they stand up for justice and they regret South Africa's decision to withdraw, saying that the withdrawal is a betrayal of the rights of the victims, who, if they don't have any recourse in the national justice system, can have recourse to the ICC, and they will no longer have that recourse. This is Voice of America, the African edition. And in this, the first paragraph is pretty telling. What they're saying here is African states who want to leave the International Criminal Court are attempting to camouflage internal political agendas with the old populist argument of Western dominance. You have this African Group for Justice and Accountability, this is in the Daily Mail, is pointing out that they are calling on the country's leaders to reconsider this decision. And that's an organisation that includes lawyers, prosecutors, judges, etc. So an African voice in the justice sphere that is nervous or upset about this decision. We'll finish just in terms of the critical voices vis-a-vis this particular trend. This is the Foreign Minister of Canada, Stéphane Dion, and he's quoting Nelson Mandela, who said that if an international criminal court had been functioning effectively during much of his time when he was in incarceration, that the world would have known a lot less inhumanity, or at least, I suppose, certain parts of the world, and indeed South Africa. So a word of caution about the risk of impunity.
African criticism of the ICC often centred around the fact that it only targets Africa.
Indeed, and a lot of voices saying, you know what, South Africa is right to quit the ICC, and this is at gulfnews.com. The International Court should be disbanded because it operates on the principle of one law for the less influential, while the mighty enjoy immunity from prosecution. And indeed, lots of voices pointing that out. This is one African saying that unhappy sovereignty is better than happy servitude. That's one way of putting it. RFI, our sister radio channel, which is the most listened to radio station in Africa, they're being quoted as well. According to RFI, the decision by Gambia to leave the International Criminal Court is being perceived as quite a personal decision against the prosecutor, the ICC prosecutor, Bensouda, who is herself Gambian and an ex-justice minister. So some of this could be related to internal political sort of tensions, if you like. This is Le Monde Diplomatique, a monthly publication in France with a lot of pretty serious articles on international issues. And they are pointing to, if you look, this is a sub section of that article. Is it the court for Africa? So a lot of people are saying, look, International Criminal Court, but in fact, most of the people charged are Africa. So is it the African Criminal Court? And this article also points out that 3 permanent members of the UN Security Council don't recognize the ICC. That's the US, Russia, China, also countries such as Israel. So of course there is this question of a double standard, if you like. This is being put very bluntly here in one Zimbabwean news website. Why have George Bush and Tony Blair not been dragged to the ICC? Perhaps a slightly more balanced take on the same question being put by this article in Le Monde, where two professors of public law in France, Serge Sur and Julien Fernandez, say, actually, well, yeah, George Bush and Tony Blair, there is, if you take the Chilcot report in the UK, if you take the Feinstein report in the US, there are enough elements to pursue them for war crimes based on what happened in 2003 in Iraq. And I suppose that whole issue of a double standard and the fact that certain large and powerful nations don't sign up to the ICC, it is being brought up a lot to justify why certain African countries would now be pulling the plug on it. But certainly for the international justice system, it's a step backwards.
James Creighton, thanks very much.
Thanks, Chris.